ready to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith? Then grab your Bible and let's get started.
Shalom and welcome. You know, when I was in the religious systems, I used to hear all about the wealth of the unrighteous, the sinners, transferred to the righteous. And if we can look back for Genesis chapter 30 from last week, we will actually see that in play. We actually see Laban, who was an unrighteous, a wicked person, his wealth being transferred to Jacob. Welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom, where we're working towards becoming harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I greatly appreciate every last one of you who's able to join me on this live premiere, and those of you who will be joining me on the replay. Everyone most definitely is greatly appreciated. And I hope this is you at this point in the time that you have been visiting me. Even if this is your first time, I welcome you. 50th, 300th time, I do welcome you. But I'm hoping that today is the day that you have decided that you want to join this family, that you want to join a family that does not mind searching the scripture, a family that does not mind challenging the religious teachings that we have been under for hundreds of years, a family that does not mind identifying themselves and being a committed student of the Bible, a lifetime student of the Bible. You can easily join this family by hitting that subscribe button below and hitting that bell. That bell is to let you know when I'm live, when there's any announcements or any updates. That's the purpose of the bell. But that is not the only way that you can support this family. You can support this family easily by making comment, putting comments in the comment box below, sharing this link. We are live right now. You have an opportunity to share with your loved ones and your friends, because if you're learning something, they can learn something too. Give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, YouTube. And don't forget, we actually have a digital online shop where you can purchase your individual Bible companion or your workbook companions. So all those tools are dedicated for you guys, and I use them too, as a community to keep us focused and keep us, most of all, organized. And donate in the love drawer. Donate in the love drawer. All of these things that we're talking about, supporting this ministry, is a way to grow this ministry. Remember, our mission is to make disciples, starting with the elementary level, because there's so many people who do not have the foundation of the word. They jump right into the New Testament and not getting an understanding of everything. And it's how you get all that misinterpretation of things, or feel like things are contradicting themselves, or just plain confused. You can find all this information of supporting this ministry in the description box. And it's there for you so that you will know what to do and how to support this family. So that is there for you. Now, this is important for you to know also, is that you should have your Bible in front of you. Every time that you are in my presence or in the presence of someone else or someone's teaching you anything, have a Bible in front of you. And don't forget, at the end of this teaching on today, you have an opportunity to ask questions. Now, commenting and sharing is encouraged and supported throughout the teaching on today. Even when you ask questions on the replay, I address those questions, so you won't feel like you're out there in limbo land. Now, we are going to start off with our key points. We always go through our key points first. The first thing we go through is because the replay, we want to keep things going and remember how we learn it in connecting the dots. See, that's one thing about the Bible. Is how do you connect the dots from Genesis to Revelation? How do you connect the dots? That's what's important. So I have my Genesis sheet for chapter 30 up here before us. We're going to go over the few key points that came out to me. And I want to first address Jacob's children because at this point, Jacob has a total of 12 children. There's 11 boys and one daughter. But I want to point out that he actually have 4 firstborns. I keep expressing this because you will need to know this information as we continue on through the Torah, especially when we get to the end of Genesis. Now, what is standing out for me? The fact that Laban was aware that he himself has been blessed because Yehovah is with Jacob. The fact that he is aware of that is fascinating. And when we get through chapter 31, I will explain to you why that stands out to me. And remember when Jacob and Laban had made a deal on, he's ready to leave back to his fatherland, and they made an agreement that Jacob was willing to take all the spotted, speckled, ring-streaked lambs and goats because no one wants those, and he would take that. It's not like they were of value, but they were animals, so he was willing to take those. But what does Laban do? Laban takes all the animals that's speckled, ring-streaked, and spotted, take those animals out and give it to his own sons and put 3 days ahead from Jacob. He does that on purpose. But what I do find fascinating is in the insight that Jacob did not get upset that he was being deceived. And the fact that Jacob started learning the field is fascinating to me. And most of all, the transfer of the wealth from Laban to Jacob. And we're going to learn more of this in Genesis chapter 31. But I want to point you to my question. My question I have is, how did Jacob know what to do with the animals for them to mate and have spotted, ring-striped, and speckled offsprings? How did he know what to do? We're going to get that question answered. And what I have kind of like a highlight, underline, is for those of you who purchased the Genesis workbook, thank you. I want to point out that it's time to do your check-in. So I'm going to show you an example of a check-in if you have not purchased your workbook. So let me show you an example of this. All righty. So this is your check-in. This is after every maybe 4th or 5th chapter of Genesis. And this is a personal check-in as you go along in Genesis. And these are the things that you will work on. What stood out for you so far in these 5 chapters that you're in? What have you applied so far? What are your next steps, your prayer? And did you find the Messiah? So it's time to do that check-in. Now, I want to also let you know that your check-in, although it's personal, or I consider it personal, your personal journey, you are welcome to share that. You're welcome to share any of your key points from the chapters that was key points to you, and anything that you applied, any insight, anything you add to your prayer that someone else can learn from. All of this is because we are a community. So we're supposed to be able to stand by and help one another. So, so it is important to understand that information. So we are in Genesis chapter 31. I do not believe that we're going to get through Genesis 31 as I look at it. Right before we came on, I was looking at it and I said, well, I feel like I'm rushing it in order to complete the entire chapter. So what I'm going to do is we're going to end maybe halfway through, and I'm going to update the thumbnail. So those who, when you're watching a replay, you would not see the entire Genesis chapter 31. You will be seeing Genesis chapter 31, what verses that we're going to finish as we figure out where I'm going to end today. Again, my sheet's going to stay up there for a while, so you can take a look at that. And we are going to go straight into Genesis chapter 31. Once again, I hope that you have your Bible in front of you, all your highlighters, all your writing utensils that you need, so that you can test what I'm saying and that you can talk through the comment box or email or whatever if there's something that we need to go deeper in. A lot of times I feel like you have to be level off, and some things you have to learn for yourself. So I try not to give everything, especially at one time. Genesis chapter 31, and here we go. And he heard the words of Laban's son saying, when it says "and he," this is Jacob. Jacob heard the words of Laban's son saying, Laban had taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. And Yehovah said unto Jacob, return into the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. Now, right before we came on, about 10 minutes, I was going over the Genesis chapter 31, and the word glory kept blinging at me. And I said, okay, so let me look this up in the Strongs and see what it is. Most of us would think of, glory, and I'm hoping that we think in the same way. I just want to really make sure that I was right. So I looked up glory in Strongs, and that's H3519 kabod, and it means abundance. So in other words, Jacob had taken away all that was our father's, of that which was our father's hath he gotten all this abundance. He got all this abundance from my father, our father. So this is what they are thinking. So Jehovah is already speaking to Jacob about his next steps because of this change is happening. And so he's telling him, go back to your father's land. So here, the transfer of wealth is what we're reading that came from Laban going to Jacob is not settling well with Laban nor with his sons. So, and that is the issue that's going on now. Verse 4. Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock. So now he's calling on Rachel and Leah. And he said unto them, I see your father's countenance. That is not toward me as before. But but Elohim of my father hath been with me. And ye know that with all my power I have served your father. So he is telling them, I served your father with all. And your father have deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim suffered him not to hurt me. And he said thus, the speckle should be thy wages, then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said thus, the ring streak shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ring streak. Thus Elohim have taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. So now we see that Jacob is calling a family meeting with his two wives. So it seems like we're getting a little better understanding about the speckle, the ring streak, and the cattle, and what is making Laban and his sons upset. Because Jehovah again is transferring that wealth from Laban to Jacob. I want us to pay attention to the word cattle. And the reason why I want to pay attention to the word cattle, because I am from the Midwest. I'm not from the country part, the city part. So when I see cattle, naturally, the big animals, the cows and all those things come to my mind. But when I looked up the word cattle in Strong's, this is the small animals. These are so H6629 is what you find in Strong's, and it's son, not son, but son. And these are small cattle. These are the sheep and the goats in one flock. So this is what he means when Jacob is talking about the cattle. Just want us to understand that. So when we read that word cattle in this context, that's what it means. Verse 10. And it came to pass at the time that the cattle, which is the sheep and the goats, conceived, that I lift up my eyes and I saw in a dream. And behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-streaked, speckled, and grislet. And the angel of Elohim spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift up thy eyes and see all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-streaked, speckled, and grislet. For I've seen all that Laban hath doeth unto thee. I am Elohim of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowest a vow unto me. Now rise, get thee out of from this land, and return into the land of thy kindred. So remember back in Genesis chapter 28, Jacob was on his way to Rachel's family. He made a vow to Yehovah. And again, that's Genesis chapter 28, and you find it through verses 18 through 21 when he anoints the pillar of stone and things like that. But we are going to focus on partial of 19 and 21 so we can read the vow itself. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If Elohim will be with me, and if he keep me in this way that I go, and give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall Yehovah be my Elohim. So Yehovah is coming to him in a dream and reminding him of that vow. So this is what I've been doing for you because of that vow that you made with me. So these spotted, speckled, ring-streaked cattle, let's remember sheep and goats. And then the rams, remember the rams are the he-goats. Maybe I didn't mention that. Rams are he-goats. And you find it at 86260, a tude, ram, he-goats. So you find this cattle agreement Jacob made with Laban came from the dream that Yehovah gave him that he's sharing with his family in chapter 31. So now we understand chapter 30, why he was doing the streaks and things like that, and they were mating along the water trout because of the dream that we are reading here in 31. So let me see what verse was that when he was doing I want to get that straight. Was it 40? It was last week. It was chapter 30 when he was doing the speckled. Verse 37. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and hazel chestnut and peeled white strikes in them and made the white appear, which is with rods. And I'm missing something. Yeah. And he set the rods which had peeled before the flocks in the gutters in the water and the troughs where the flocks came to drink. They should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods and brought forth cattle, ring-streaked and speckled and spotted. So he was going off the dream, again, that we just read today, to what he put the plan together in 30. So it's kind of like backwards a little bit. So that is what he was sharing with his family in this family meeting. So let's read about what Rachel and Leah wants to say about this. Verse 14. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, is there yet any portion of inheritance for us in our father's house? Are we not counted for him strangers? For he has sold us, have quick devoured also our money. So what they had money for all the riches which Elohim have taken from our father, that is ours and our children's. Now then, whatsoever Elohim has said unto thee, do. So the two daughters are willing to leave. Leah and Rachel understand that they will not inherit anything. Besides, their father took all their money that they did have and sold them to Jacob, because Jacob worked a total of 14 years for both of the women, because the elder, according to their culture, had to go marry first, and then he worked another 7 years for Rachel. So they was willing to accept the transfer from their father to them and their children, and in agreement to whatever Elohim says for them to do. So now they're ready to follow the instructions of Yehovah and get to Jacob, which is Isaac's father's, which Isaac is his father, land. So they're willing to do this. Verse 17. Then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels, and he carried away all his cattle, sheep and goats, and all his goods which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting which he had gotten in Panorama, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear the sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father. So Laban, let's continue on. We'll get to it. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, and that he told him not that he fled. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, set his face toward the Mount Gilead. And it was told to Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. So I wanted us to understand what's going on. So the family is packed and ready to go. And while the family is packing and ready to go, Laban goes shears his sheep. And then Rachel sneaks over to his belongings, whether it's tent, whatever tent she went to, and steals his gods. Now, why would she do something like that? I have no idea. She risks him finding out that they're leaving, but she steals the idol, the adultery, the false gods from Laban. You know, why steal these false gods when they're hearing from Yehovah himself? I was just baffled at that part. And then we got a little bit of information about the family, Abraham's family, that they are from Syrians, and that's who is Laban is from. So Jacob is gone. It's been 3 days, and so now they are telling Laban that he is gone. Verse 23. And he being Laban, took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey, and they overtook him in Mount Gilead. And Elohim came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said to him, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. So Laban went after Jacob and his family. Took him about 7 days to catch up with them. Elohim came to Laban, specifically warned him on how to handle things. Be careful with the words that you choose that you're going to be speaking to Jacob, because Yehovah hears it all. So it's amazing how things are working out for Laban, and he's still kind of a little clueless about the God that created the heaven and earth. Verse 25. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What hast thou done? That thou hast stolen away unawares to me and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly and steal away from me? And didst not tell me that I might send thee away with myrrh, with songs, with tambourine, and with harp? And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters, that thou hast not done foolishly? Thou hast done foolishly in so doing." That's a mouthful to try to say. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. This is Laban talking to Jacob. But the Elohim of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, "Take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though thou wouldest needs to be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods?" Now we know that Jacob tried to depart before. Back, he wanted to leave his father before, anyway, in chapter 30. And Laban is saying that you stole my daughters, which is his wives. I couldn't kiss my sons and my daughters, which is his wives, his daughter, and his Jacob's sons, wives, and daughter. And he said that so keep this in mind. In Genesis chapter 2, that Adam said that we're supposed to unite, the husband and wife supposed to unite and leave their father. But Laban did not want anyone to leave him because he was getting blessed. So we know that all this is about profit. So we also have Yehovah speak to Laban to, don't talk ill of anything to Jacob. And then he accuses Jacob of stealing his gods. Remember, Laban gods do not speak, they do not eat, they don't do anything but sit on the shelves wherever they put them at. So why would Jacob need to do that when he has a God, an Elohim, that is speaking to him, that's giving him plans and how to do things and watching over him, protecting him and supplying his needs? So why would Laban need the gods why would Jacob need the gods from Laban? That kind of baffled me. Okay. Verse 31. It's important to get the backstory of everything. We miss the backstory of things. Verse 31. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure thou wouldst take by force thy daughters from me." So Jacob is now responding to Laban as why he had left. Why did he leave secretly? "With whomsoever thou findest thou gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is in thou with me, and take it to thee." For Jacob knew not that Rachel has stolen them. So he's saying, go ahead and, whoever stole from you, whoever stole you guys, they're worthy to die. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and to Leah's tent, and to the two maidservants' tent, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent, and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them in the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, "Let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me." and he searched but found not the images. So Jacob was probably correct. He probably was correct that Laban would have made some attempt to take his daughters and his children somehow away from him. I wouldn't doubt that there would be something that Laban would try to do to prevent Jacob from taking his family. But I still find it interested. I'm interested in what was going on in Rachel's head to steal the gods. Because we have to remember, I don't know, Rachel was going through a lot as far as she was not able to have children for a long time. So far, she's only had one, and that's Joseph. And Leah's having more children, and the handmaids having more children than she had. And she envied her sister. But I still, you know, wonder why she did it, because even she has spoken that Jehovah heard her voice and take away her shame, and that's how she got Joseph. So not only we have Rachel deceiving her father, she stole from her father, so she's stealing and she's deceiving. This is Jacob's favorite. You know, It- I don't even know what to say about that. But I was shocked to see that even happened. That she would steal and from her father. So this is a time to ask any questions if you have any questions. I actually don't see any questions. I do see my grandson on here again. But you have times to ask questions during the replay, and I will address those questions. Now, I hope you are making time on to meet me on Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. because we are in the book of Judges. We are on chapter 2 of the book of Judges. If you have not purchased your workbook, please visit the online digital shop. You will find that link in the description box right next to the shopping cart, and be ready for when we come together on Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. for chapter 2 of the book of Judges. As always, man does not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yehovah. So I pray that you have a blessed rest of the week, and I will see you at 10 o'clock a.m. on Saturday. Thank you.